Welcome to Becoming Novaborn, where we talk about our work in creating our game, Novaborn Crusade of Vitus. A few years ago, we started working on a story called Starborn. It was a far cry from what we're making today. It was more similar to an old 80s sci-fi thing with like space mercenary and AI and stuff like that. And that didn't really work well. Plus, it was supposed to be a live-action YouTube series, and that wasn't really going to work out, and it didn't really seem economically viable. And then the only actors would be me and my wife. So thankfully that was scrapped early on, but we were still able to keep some of the ideas from it. For instance, the space setting and the mind powers. But after that we started talking about making actual games. My wife and I got together with a bunch of friends from university and we started brainstorming ideas. I don't think I could really tell you what we were making back then, because I don't think we knew what we were making back then, but we had a lot of fun and we learned an awful lot while we were doing that. What I could say is we were making a dream game. And we weren't just making a game, we were making a company, it was a pretty good start if I'm going to be honest. Had we known all the troubles that were on the way, I think we would have had a little bit more than blind optimism towards the project, which is probably why pretty much everyone from that project who helped us left, but we stuck around and learned through the fires of tribulation. Thankfully, it didn't take us long to realize the game was way beyond our scope. So we decided to go a little bit smaller and make a Star Wars Battlefront 2 spiritual successor, which we then put to the side when we realized that we couldn't make that either. This became a reoccurring theme, or when we were trapped between 2 points, making a game that we wanted to play and making a game that we had the ability to make. Especially considering we love 3D games, not 2D so much, despite trying to make several 2D games. It was around then that we started to realize that if we really wanted to tell our story, we would have to build up to it. And this has actually worked to our advantage. Instead of having to compromise the vision of our game, we instead created a roadmap for ourselves to build up as a company, with both the story and the gameplay becoming bigger and better with each new game, and each one being a stepping stone to the next. But then we started making a game about a crime-fighting waffle, because we would probably mess up anything with Novaborn on our first go. No, we would mess up anything with Novaborn on our first go. Anyway, I dropped out of college to make our game, smart choice I know, and returned to my hometown. I began working at my old job for some funding, which meant I didn't have much time to teach myself how to program. My wife did though. And soon we discovered that programming was her thing, not mine. I shifted into business management and writing, which worked quite well because I could think about stuff while I'm working. As I'm stocking shelves, I could be like, what if this character did this? And then, well, wouldn't that be a problem? Okay, well I can fix that by doing this, which has led to a lot of the story not actually being written down. But I'm getting there. And then we realized that we really didn't care about a game where you play as a waffle that fights chocolate raptors. So we started to work on Novaborn again. And it was at this point we decided that I was going to quit my job and use my life savings to fund us until we finished our game. That was a bad idea. However, I learned an awful lot in that summer, and I am grateful that I only wasted my own money, something I could recover from, rather than thousands of someone else's money. That's when things become a whole lot more complicated and very bad. This is where we really started to learn. We worked a bit on a side-scroller game with Inferna, then we switched to an RTS game, kind of an RTS version of what we're making right now, and we worked on that for a few years. I spent most of my time studying stories in different forms, movies, books, comics, games, to see why they were good and why they were bad, and how we could have the good parts and avoid the bad parts, which obviously you can't be perfect, but you can try. Those were some pretty tough times, but I feel that we grew a lot from that. You don't really learn something from an easy ride. While we were working on our game, the thought hit me. If we released our game tomorrow, no one would know, or even care. We needed to give people a reason to care. So, we took the story that we had shelved from the side-scroller game about Inferna, her origin story, and we turned that into a comic. Novaborn, Tale of Inferna. This became our focus with the game sitting on the back burner. Biggest problem with that being that the game was being made using a toolkit from the Unreal Store. And we would run into glitches, and we couldn't fix them, and we couldn't figure out if it was our fault, or if it was the toolkit's fault, or if it was just a thing that happened with Unreal Engine. And then an update would come out for Unreal Engine or for the turn-based strategy toolkit we got. And then we'd have to remake everything if we wanted to fix the glitches so that the game could even be playable. But that was fine because we were mostly focused on the comic. Except for when we started to make a hard science fiction shooter, kind of similar to the original Starborn. And also a mobile infinite runner about Inferno running on rooftops. Supposed to come out during one of our hiatus, but we never finished that. So most of these little projects, it can seem like we were distracted, but it was mostly that we had hit a roadblock and we were missing knowledge. So we would go and work on another project, and as we were doing those things, we would learn more. So when it came back to working on the regular project, we could apply all the things that we've learned to the new project, or to Novaborn as a whole. Then one day, I was recommended a video from YouTube of a Dark Souls style melee and bow and arrow blueprint for UE4. In this demo, I saw all the things we wanted for Novaborn, the knowledge that had been the missing link in making our game. We bought both toolkits, and then Brittany ripped them apart, figured out how they work, and created something new. Shortly, we had them combined together and molded to fit our vision. Less like Dark Souls and more like Jedi Knight Jedi Academy. Then we felt something while we were playing our game. Something we hadn't felt before. This was it. We could make this game. It was Novaborn. And most importantly, it was actually fun to play, which was quite a novel concept. Since that day, we've been making leaps and bounds with our project, as everything we've learned over all these years, over all of these projects, has finally come back to help us with this one. We feel that this is our time to tell our story and to make our game. And even after all this, it still just feels like the beginning of the journey. But I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I'd want to be on any other journey. So I hope you enjoyed this little behind the scenes thing of how we're making Novaborn and kind of what we went through to get to this point. If you like it, subscribe, then you can find out more little tidbits. We're going to be talking about other stuff like what Novaborn is, where we kind of came up with the idea for the actual powers for it. We'll be talking a bit about the characters, where we came up with them and how they evolved over time, and all kinds of little tidbits. And we might even show off the game. Who knows? It's wild and crazy out there. So stay tuned, and there will be more, potentially. Oh, and read our comic. We worked hard on that. Just go read it. Thank you. Bye.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.